Hey everybody, it's me. I'm alive. Thank you all for coming. Trying to stick to the usual schedule. Sunday is Q&A day, even though technically where I am, it's actually Monday, but still it's Sunday in California. So thank you all for coming. Let's jump into this one. This is, again, all the top questions from the week. Will be less of my face. It's like the Aussie man guy. It's like, this is my face. He's very funny. But anyway, let's get into the story. A lot to cover. And let me pop this up if I can. Not this. No, wrong screen. I struggle to use a laptop this day and age. All right, today we're going to talk about how debasement ravages. Super interesting. A really cool question that came in. And it's a question that I think about all the time. So super to have that. We're going to talk about how to invest for a newborn baby. What's the best thing to do? We'll look at M2 divided by Bitcoin, do travels. Thank you everybody for being here so late at night. But I guess we have a lot of people in Asia and India and Australia, etc. Anyway, look at Sol versus Sui, market manipulation theories, and Lamborghini versus Cybertruck, and so much more. American Beijinger, thank you for coming. I'm in your time zone. And of course, this is not financial advice. I'm going to rip through this really quick because a lot of good stuff and all the questions come from Patreon. So, first question is from Soulman. And again, this is brilliant. Hi, James. Very nice and very helpful mods. Thank you for shouting out to the mods, like American Beijinger here. Is there a way to graph out the growth of Bitcoin in dollars minus the effect of debasement? I'd like to see the net effect of adoption on Bitcoin's price. This is a brilliant question. And you know, I just want to take a second. Sometimes I say things and I share data, but people get upset. I don't know why. I plan on doing a video in the future about cognitive biases and how you should ignore them and how you should just stick to the facts, look at data, and don't let anything else impact your decisions. So this is the real scoop on debasement. This is a funny meme that somebody sent me yesterday. I could afford groceries 4 years ago, and somebody doesn't believe it. Everything's fine, the same price. DB, thank you for coming in Australia. But I'm going to show you today mathematically how there is a huge impact on debasement and also calculate the actual true price of Bitcoin today in real terms, not nominal terms. You know, people think, oh, we need Bitcoin to hit 69K or 73K to get to a new all-time high. It's actually a very different story. First of all, and it's going to be, I'm trying to explain this as simply as possible as I can. First of all, and I also realize, by the way, there's a large lag between money printing and the impact on prices in grocery stores. So, for example, if the Fed prints a bunch of money or whatever, or the Treasury prints a bunch of money, you don't see the impact on prices until a year and a half later, sometimes even longer. But here, this chart basically shows you if M2 supply increases without a corresponding increase in Bitcoin's price, the real value of Bitcoin may appear to rise since it takes more currency to buy the same amount of Bitcoin. So it's like if you have, the simple way to think about that is if you have a desert island and you have 10 apples and then a ship comes in and you have $10 of currency on the island, you can basically say, well, each apple will go for $1. That's simply how it works. But if somebody comes over and increases the money supply to $20, but there's only 10 apples, the price of an apple will go to $2. So that's the easy way to think about it. Now, if you look at the M2 over Bitcoin ratio, this chart tracks how much M2 as a measure of money supply is needed to purchase a Bitcoin. And a declining ratio suggests that the Bitcoin is gaining value due to the relative money supply, indicating debasement effects. And that's what we're going to break down here. So I'm glad you're asking this question. First of all, this is from Trueflation. This is debasement over the last 3 years, since September 2021. Okay, it's now September 2024. And you can see, let's call it 26% for simplicity. And that's the compounded inflation rate. Like you might have inflation for, say, 7% or 6.5% per year, but it compounds. And compounding is a miracle when you are on the receiving end of it, but not the other way around. So that's the first piece of data I'm going to look at. Second one is we've gone from 12 trillion of M2 money supply in the United States alone. This is just using US dollars, to 21 trillion since 2016. Yeah, that's a pretty, let's call that nearly a doubling. But what really kicked into high gear, we've gone up 40% since C19. It's basically since January 2020. So what I did was I took a whole bunch of these reference points, because it's never good to take just one point of data, but take a few, and I put together a simple table. So I have on the left here different time periods. Last 3 years, we got 26% of debasement. Last 8 years, 57.14% of debasement. And since January 2020, 40% of debasement. So I calculated the average of each, and then brought it together to calculate the impact on the price of Bitcoin. And this is the magical slide here. So if you assume the total debasement over the last 3 years is 26%, that means if the price of Bitcoin today is $64,000, which, by the way, it just pumped to, that was the number I assumed. I was hoping we get to 64K. We are at 64,300. Whoa, we're pumping. And I've got, yes. Oh, this is good news. This is going to sound really creepy, but I think when I'm here with you all, most of the time the market goes up because of the good juju. So I appreciate you all. But here, let's look at the last 3 years. If we assume 26% total debasement and a Bitcoin price of 64,000, that means the relative Bitcoin price in real adjusted terms, not nominal. Nominal is dollars. Real adjusted is going back in time. That would be $50,000 from 3 years ago. If we go to the last 8 years, it'd be $40,000. And if we go since January 2020, it'd be $45,000. And the staggering thing about that is we are no matter which one you take, we are very, very far from all-time highs. People think, oh, we hit 74K or 69K or whatever else. No, the real price is, call it 45K as an average of these. That's the real price of Bitcoin, given the amount of new dollars chasing those apples on the island. So I hope that's very clear for everybody, and I hope that helps. But there's other countries around the world. Shout out to our Canadian friends. US is a poop show. But Canada, next level money printing too. So it's not just the US, but other places too are printing a lot of money. And the final part of your question, because this is also super interesting, and this is regarding Metcalfe's law. You said, how does Bitcoin adoption and price correspond? So I use the top and bottom indicator model here, which has the amount of wallets. And this is another example of how lagging the Bitcoin price actually is in real terms. So last time this chart hit an all-time high of 69K, we had 38 million Bitcoin wallets. Now we have 55 million Bitcoin wallets, but the price is only 64K. So we have more wallets, more adoption, therefore the network value must be higher, but it's not. And if you take that average calculation I did before right here, Bitcoin price is about 45K in real terms. 45K, but the amount of adoption is up over 50%. So we have a long way to go, ladies and gentlemen. If Metcalfe's law works, if my calculations are right around real versus nominal, we are far from the true all-time high, ladies and gentlemen. And now it's a bona fide asset class. So I want to thank you again, and because my brain is still not perfect, I don't remember. Soulman, thank you. Brilliant question. And this is the way we all need to think. And yes, if you think for a second your blueberries are the same price as they were 4 years ago, they're not. Not at all. Not by any stretch. Thank you for the question, Soulman. Next question is from Golf Tragic. Hi, James. I'm hearing that EV sales are down due to not entirely battery disposal issues. Are you able to shed some light on this? Many thanks and hats off to the team and yourself. Thank you so much. This is cool. So a couple of things that are going to happen, and this is just reality. And I know I used to be a petrol head myself, ride motorbikes, work on cars. I love stuff like that. At least I used to when I was younger and I had time. But ICE will be flipped in 2026 on planet Earth. That means the majority of vehicles will be, or maybe 2027, but sometime. And it's already happened in Norway. It's already happened in China. It's already happening in Denmark. In different parts of the world, it's already happening. ICE will be flipped because electric cars are better, cheaper, faster. Sound familiar? That's what typically wins. And this is a key chart as well that you will see more and more of. And, you know, the traditional car companies that make internal combustion engines are suffering hard right now. Now, again, I have to say one more time, getting a little bit political here, mainstream media lies, okay? Absolutely lies. And you just got to be careful what you believe and what you hear. Everybody's going after Elon Musk, no matter what industry it is, media companies, automakers, etc. So just don't believe everything you read. It's all garbage. However, most battery electric vehicles are garbage. This is also true. But there are a couple of winning companies, Tesla, BYD, etc. They make very good cars. But there is an overall industry slowdown driven by the macro, which is terrible. There's a recession in the auto industry. High interest rates are murdering them, etc. But there's also a transformation happening. And despite all this, BEV adoption is accelerating. And the EV battery recycling industry is actually booming. There's a couple of players that are actually making good money, growing very fast. So no, don't worry about it. But the other thing that I do want to stress here is EVs are now cheaper and more comparable to ICE. Now, I want to shout out to my brother-in-law. This actual car is in the lobby of my hotel and it inspired this story. And the other one is what I have. And he said he prefers sports cars over trucks. And I said, well, there's a little bit of a difference here. And I just want to use this as a simple example to make a point. ICE versus BEV. You got a Lamborghini Urus on the left and a Cybertruck on the right. The Urus ranges up to $457,000 for the hybrid, which is the stupidest thing ever. If you heard me say plug-in hybrid, $457,834. Who would buy that? But the crazy thing is, you have a car that is, $456,000 wherever you are. In Singapore, it's even more expensive. You have, and this dollar terms, by the way, 0 to 60, Cybertruck, 2.6 seconds. The Lamborghini Urus, 3.1 to 3.5 seconds. I don't know which one's which. The hybrid is probably the slower one. But that is ridiculous. And this car is 2,200 kilograms or pounds lighter. I don't know. It's, 1,000 kilograms lighter. It does have a higher top speed, but it's slower. So the question is, why would anybody buy a car? Like, you might as well buy 4 Cybertrucks and give one to all your friends and family. Keep one for yourself, and rather than buying a Lamborghini. And that's just an example of where we're going. These companies that make these cars are going to die, and hybrids are a joke. So don't believe media. Next question from Brian S. Interesting to see you even get baffled by the non-movement of price when large buys occur. The manipulation is working apparently, but for how much longer? I don't think we will see retail numbers we saw in the last 3 bull runs, as they should have been here by now. Thoughts? So very, very interesting question. And your question, the reason I love doing Q&A every single Sunday, no matter what, your questions make me think, and it makes me come up with weird ideas. So I'm going to share one in a second. But first of all, retail is not here. And you can see here, retail has no cash in this chart as of March 2024. Basically, the US retail investor has depleted all their cash reserves. They're basically out of money. And there has been, as I've been saying, the Bitcoin action is all institutional right now. It's the big players, it's the Michael Saylors, it's the ETFs, and they are the kind of players right now. So yes, retail has not arrived yet, and they normally come later in the bull run anyway. It's the whales that do the action first, and the whales are definitely there. The other thing to consider is my little conspiracy theory time. What if what if, because the way savings are measured for retail investors is they look at people's bank accounts. What if people aren't keeping cash anymore, but they're buying Bitcoin through ATMs or whatever else? That's also a possibility. So maybe they're not saving in cash or traditional means, but they're pumping it straight into Bitcoin. But I doubt it. I just don't see the data for that right now. Wow, things are looking good out there in the market. Bitcoin just went to $400 since I started. Woohoo, 450 actually. Now, the market maker games are being played. You're dead right there. But, they're doing things like buying Bitcoin, simultaneously shorting the carry trade stuff. They're shorting the futures to profit from price drops. They're setting price floors. Binance does a lot of this, gradually raising them to create the appearance of stability. And a lot of OTC is happening. There's 400,000 Bitcoin on the OTC desks. I think Sailor just bought a bunch of them. And others are going to buy them too. But that is impacting the spot price significantly. The market makers are doing their thing, as it were. Now, that being said, let's get back to brass tacks and where we are today. I had originally said in 2023 that I expected the halving target was 42,000. We're in the getting deeper into the post-halving period, and we're still kind of high at 65, 64.5, 64.6 now as I speak. So it's not catastrophically bad, but again, that translates to about 45,000 in old money from the last bull run. So we have a long way to go, ladies and gentlemen, but always think in real terms, not nominal terms. Think of the apples on the island as well. So next, I hope that helps as well. Next question is from the Yorkshireman. My partner and I recently had our first child. Team coffee, love that. In your non-financial advice, what is your thesis when it comes to investing for children? And first of all, congratulations, the Yorkshireman, on the birth of your first child. Well, it's funny. I've noticed it's unlike in the US, but in Asia, there seems to be a lot of pregnant women running around here. Anyway, it's great to see, and congratulations. As Elon says, the world needs more babies. Now, there's a couple of really good things working in your favor. The first one is starting early is a huge advantage. I always say get in early, get in hard. But when you have a child's life of, say, 18 years before they become an adult, even investing a tiny amount early, a small regular contribution can grow to a massive amount over 18 plus years. So you have that huge advantage. So start now, first of all. Focus on long-term growth assets, Bitcoin, Tesla, stuff like that. Depending on your jurisdiction, Yorkshireman, you could be in the United Kingdom. There could be tax advantage plans. I'm not a tax advisor, but check those out too. Maybe you can get a tax write-off. And also, I remember in 2017, my whole spiel to my network is like, if you have a kid, buy one Bitcoin. If you got two kids, buy two Bitcoins. And of course, nobody ever listened to me. And then they called me up 7-8 years later. Why didn't I do that? Anyhow, that's just how it works. But I know it's a lot right now to buy one Bitcoin per child. But in 18 years, it's going to be a 7-digit asset. And that's one thing to really consider. Also, today, what I would do is just a couple of Tesla shares, as much Bitcoin as you can get per kid. And then just always keep your tap dancing shoes on. Things can change, and revise the strategy as you need to, but plan on holding these two things till at least 2028. And then the world will be completely different. The world is changing very fast right now as we speak. So Yorkshireman, congratulations again. Hope this helps. And starting early is massive. Very blessed. Bitcoin is up $750 since I started. You guys are amazing, and gals. This from Wolfchin. Hi, James. Recent ETH price weakness has not resulted in a mass rotation into Sol, as I would have expected. What are the barriers for institutions to leave ETH and move to Sol? Also, besides stablecoins, what's the number one use case for Sol that will launch mass adoption? Good question. Now, I have done two very extensive videos with about 70 nuggets on Solana, so I won't spend too much time over the last 2 days. I won't spend too much time on that at all. But what is this other question that is more intriguing to me is, why do people hold Ethereum? It's the same flaw in humans. Humans find it very easy to buy stuff, but boy, they have a hard time selling anything. And they always have a dream, and they listen to targets. I'm still seeing $20,000 ETH targets on Twitter and stuff. The good things for ETH, why people hold it: ETH is established, ETH has an ETF, ETH has supposed interest, ETH is supposed to be the institutional asset. All these things kind of work in its favor, but crypto is very tribal. The ETH believers, the ETH maxis, like the Bitcoin maxis, like all the other maxis, they're very, very tribal, very loyal, and people listen to them. And just in full disclosure here, just so you can see my face, as the Aussie man says, humans have a hard time selling. And I want to say this part, just so I can say it now. I'm an alpha maxi, all right? I don't care what it is. If I can help people make money on it, that's what I follow. So that's kind of where we are. Now let's compare ETH to Sol. ETH versus Sol, I mean, Solana does so much more. It does 3,200% more transactions. It has 1,300% more daily active users. The users do a lot more on the chain. The fees are 5 million% cheaper. 5 million%. You can't make that stuff up. It's kind of crazy out there. So the big question is, as you say, why not the rotation? Because the way I look at it is, this is from the SCP Profiler, you look at Solana is about 22% of the ETH market cap, but it does much more. And even when you add up all the L2s as well, it's still a very small fraction. And it does a lot more than all ETH and the layer 2s combined. So the time will come. And in fact, I made a post yesterday on Patreon. I can't remember, but I meant to, that I believe, the relative, from the Sol upside model, I'm very confident now that Solana has the potential of hitting 50% of ETH market cap. And that's a moving chart too from the Sol upside model. Anybody can check it out online. Just Google Sol upside or go to TradingView. And there you'll see where we'll go. And if that does happen, we're looking at least, I think, a $333 Sol at ETH prices today at the 50% market cap ETH. We're pretty much halfway there, and we're going to go a lot further. By the way, this also shows all the other top layer 1s, layer 2s out there. And, Tron, Cardano are pretty much the same. And that's a mystery right there. And actually, the Cardano is still a huge market cap because, as I mentioned before, humans have a hard time selling. As I always say as well, don't get married to your asset. Now, I feel like I'm rambling a bit. Let's get back to this. The two biggest use cases. For me, I believe they are DeFi, which is DEXs, decentralized exchanges. The news that came out over the last 3 days here in Singapore regarding DEX capability, mind-blowing. Stablecoins, basically turning dollars into digital dollars that are frictionlessly transferable, and then lending and borrowing. We'll talk more about that on DCA tomorrow as well, by the way. And then payments, sending and receiving money, remittances. That's also a huge use case. That's, things like payments, coupons and stuff. That people will sniff out the ability to save money very quickly indeed. And just watch for those. That's how we get to 1 billion users real fast. If people can find a way to save a couple of dollars, they'll do it real fast. All right, next question from Less Ego, More Peace. I love that name. And yes, I'm all about peace, by the way. I do not like war. So Less Ego, More Peace. We are aligned. New here and loving it in Patreon. James, I am not yet sophisticated enough to follow all of your trades. I am 100% invested in Bitcoin, Tesla, and MicroStrategy. Am I making a mistake just hodl all for the next 10 years? You talk about profit taking, but I'm hesitant to time the market. Love you, man. Love you too. First of all, never plan on holding anything. That whole hodl thing is just dangerous. Eliminate that from your mind. A few things you need to consider always. First of all, seasons change, markets change. We've got bull markets and bear markets, and we are more than halfway through a bull market, in my opinion, right now. Also, nothing goes straight up, and sometimes when things go to the moon, they choke out and they mean revert. That's just how it works. And rotation is also key. When you look at relative values of assets, some things get overheated, and that's time to move out or hedge or sell or take some profit and put them into something that hasn't run. Absolutely crazy. Also, theses change. Very important. You could have a winning asset, and then all of a sudden, like imagine Bitcoin is a brilliant asset, and then all of a sudden there's a Bitcoin killer out there. You got to be prepared for that. You got to keep an eye on the market. Never, ever look away from things. This kind of ties back a little bit to the first question about how to invest for a newborn baby. Also, narratives change. You know, we don't know what the next big narrative is. I'm in two right now, which I believe are the two big ones and have been since 2022. They are crypto and AI. That's it. But there could be a new narrative. It could be maybe a miracle drug for cancer or something, which could be massive. Or a lot of people are talking about the Wegovy weight loss stuff. That could be a new narrative. Again, things I don't see yet. But anyway, the world also will be a very different place in the next 10 years and even next year and the next 3 years. So always, always have your tap dancing shoes on. Hope that helps. More peace. Shanzi, MicroStrategy consistently purchases Bitcoin. Do you see a time where MicroStrategy will consider purchasing a Bitcoin mining company? Excellent question. And I always think about this too. First of all, by the way, and I'll zoom out again, never have more than 5% in Bitcoin miners. For the 100th time, they are so risky. They always dilute you to death. Okay, so just listen to me. There's people that go 100% into miners, and I was like, no, what are you doing? Also, the time to buy miners is in the bear market, not halfway through the bull market. Unless, of course, they're really beaten down as well. Like snagging some clean spark at $8 the other day. Good idea. That being said, never say never. Because who knows what could happen. But if I was Michael Saylor, and we think a little bit similarly, mining is a cutthroat business. Miners are actually buying Bitcoin now. For example, Marathon, they are not just mining Bitcoin. They're mining about 370 a month, if I'm not mistaken. But they're also buying. They're borrowing money to buy as well, which shows you even they're buying Bitcoin, not just mining it. And most miners struggle with profitability. The majority do. They issue shares, they issue debt, and they've got to continually update their infrastructure, buy more rigs, etc., pay more and more for electricity. It's just a brutal business to be in. And it's a lot easier to borrow money at close to 0% and then buy Bitcoin at opportune times than mine through seasons. That simple. So would they ever buy one? No. I would be a mistake if I was on the board of MicroStrategy. I said, never do that. Never in a million years. And I know Michael Saylor is smart enough to know that too. Next question from Aaron. First off, thanks for your tireless, in-depth research on all things crypto. Taking your advice, I'm always looking for the next Sol killer. Well, I'm going to correct you there first of all. There hasn't been one yet. So my research into finding the ETH killer brought me to Sol in early 2021 because I wanted to protect my ETH bags, which I don't have anymore because I found the replacement. The question is, getting back to your question, is there a Sol killer? So I just want to make sure we got that vernacular correct. I recently read an update on Sui blockchain and their Pilotfish upgrade, which promises to scale a higher TPS than Sol with Firedancer. To me, it seems like wishful thinking, but I want to be always paranoid with my positions. Brilliant. ABP, always be paranoid, as I say, and ABL, always be learning. So you are on top of it. And make sure you're on top of the new tech. Are you still not interested in SUI because of tokenomics? Or is the next sub 1 second finality they claim to have and Pilotfish upgrade make it worth another look? So very good. I always have my eye on what's out there. And I will be doing real soon, hopefully in the next, whenever I can get some time, the next few days for sure. I will be doing a detailed Solana versus SUI face-off. Haven't done one of these in a while. And while Pilotfish shows promise, it's still in development. And it's currently a proof of concept. And it's kind of like linear scaling, adding machines to get to a very fast place in a short window of time. I think they call it scale out execution. We don't know if it works. Now, I also say, what's very important, is a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Right now, Firedancer works. It's up. They have not one, but two different clients, maybe even a third that's available. And these guys are hitting 1 million TPS already. So the question is, where do we go from here? And the other thing that's very, very important is, and I've said this a few times before, you could have the best chain in the world. A kid could create a chain in their basement and say, from AI, and it could be better, cheaper, faster than everything. But if there's no adoption, it's a huge problem. A lot of stuff needs to be built, a lot of product market fit, dApps, DPIN stuff, and that is not really there. So back to your question, this is very important. So Solana still has way more developers, way more users, way more transactions per user, more stickiness of the chain, way more fees, way more TVL, way more DEX volume. And the question remains, this is what we have to look at. And you've heard me say this for 3 years now. What is the relative valuation? That's what I'll be looking at. So if you have, say, 1/10 of all these things, but you're 1/20th of the price, then you're very bloody attractive. And that was my whole thesis. I remember Charles Hoskinson, he mocked me on Twitter in 2021. It was hilarious. It's like, why is this guy mocking me? I said, my tweet was, it's not mathematically logical for the market cap of Cardano to be X times that of Solana. That was just my thesis, because I value them based on all these different factors, like over 60 different factors. And the same thing I will do here as well. What is the relative valuation based on my crypto valuation methodology of SUI versus SOL? If SUI is a relative value, as I mentioned, like I remember in the early days, the value of Solana as a percentage of ETH was a fraction of 1%. And I'm like, but they do 15% of what ETH does. That doesn't make sense. So that, for me, was an investment opportunity. Of course, it also had the technology and things. Anyway, that will be coming soon. It is a bit of a heavy lift, but I promise to get it to you in the next couple of days. Okay, so thank you for that. Next question from Jet1. Hey there, everyone. Is it possible that Mr. 100 is an institution like BlackRock? If yes, can they sell their Bitcoin to ETF clients from their own bag? Hence the fact that some days, despite being high volume on ETF, the price of Bitcoin doesn't move. Thanks for the shout out to Tejo, the puppy. Really appreciate the gesture. And shout out to the team. I hope Tejo's doing better. And our pleasure, of course. So quick update on Mr. 100. And I know the plot thickens and everybody's like, oh, Mr. 100 is just a cold wallet from Upbit. I know. But anyway, there were many theories on this. One of them was Tether was Mr. 100. Now, all of a sudden, Tether is marked as wallet number 9. And the bag size a week ago was identical. The Mr. 100 and Tether had exactly 73,000 Bitcoin each. And Tether keeps on stacking. Then I got 75,300 Bitcoin. Mr. 100, 73,889. So the question is it Tether? I'm not sure. Now, the other candidates for who Mr. 100 is, and I'll get to why I don't think it's BlackRock in a second. The 5 candidates so far: Michael Dell, a sovereign wealth fund out of the Middle East; Tether, scratch that maybe; Upbit Exchange Cold Wallet, possible but unlikely considering the DCA action; and some other tech billionaire or huge series of family offices or a conglomerate of Wall Street, or I don't know. We don't know. It's super interesting to watch their behavior, but their behavior is they were very rough at DCing at the beginning, and then they got really good, and now they're doing some weird stuff. So I don't know. And actually, that being said, let's see what the Bitcoin price is doing, because yeah, it fell a little bit, but that's okay. So why I believe BlackRock would not risk playing this game. All right. So first of all, BlackRock is the biggest money runner on the planet. They are the world's largest and most reputable asset manager, and they have a strong incentive to maintain integrity and trustworthiness. Remember, if you have no integrity, you cannot be trusted. You are dead out there. Dead. Very important. You get one reputation in life. Second, regulatory scrutiny. These guys have every lens, accountant, lawyer, regulator looking up their butt. Okay, so it's very difficult for them to get away with stuff. Of course, they probably play games on the side, but they can't do that. Also, their long-term strategy is to win. Okay, to get more assets. If they lose their reputation, they lose their assets, which is their business model. So it doesn't fit with their long-term strategy at all. And then they make enough money from ETF fees, from market making, and all that type of stuff. And you know, I've been the one calling out BlackRock for the longest time about how they will go, you know, they will spend, they'll take in a lot of money, like $1 billion in trading volume every day for a week or 10 days, and buy no Bitcoin or sell no Bitcoin. So they're definitely playing the ARB, definitely playing the market maker game, but I don't know what they're doing. So anyway, that's the questions so far. You guys are that pretty fast, and I want to share this real quick. And this week we helped. We donated to the Defense of Animals to help support Mission to Defend Animals. And the people that take care of them from abuses and exploitation. And of course, DCA is tomorrow. I will be on. Actually, it'll be in about 10 hours. I'll be back. But we have a great agenda with Marty and Mando. And I don't know if anybody to help me now because of the weird time zone and everything else. But if anybody has a couple of quick questions, I just hit me up here and let me know what you're thinking. And a shout out as well to American Beijinger for being here with us as well. From Troy Crypto, let me try to blow this up so I can read it. What happens if the next election brings unrealized capital, 40 unrealized capital gains, and strict price rent controls? Will the economy collapse and survival become a privilege in a broken system? Yeah, and you know, one of the things I have opinions. People watch my show because we are. I don't want to use the word capitalists, but we're kind of capitalists, and there's certain things that go against capitalism, and they are unrealized capital gains taxes, price controls. They just go fly in the face of logic. And that is a big problem. They've clearly said, one team has clearly said they have plans for some of this stuff. If unrealized capital gains were to be approved, stock market would be destroyed. Venture capital would be destroyed. Everything would be destroyed. People would flee the country. They'd give up their passports and they go to Dubai, where they're just going like mad. I was looking at some data yesterday. Of all the people fleeing a place like the United States and the United Kingdom, and they're moving to Singapore, Switzerland, Dubai, you know, all these tax-free jurisdictions very, very quickly. So, yeah, I think it would be, I'm hoping logic will prevail and that type of stuff can never happen, because that would just destroy the markets. But after 2020, I've seen crazy things happen. So Nothing is beyond. Tim Walsh says, is Peter Schiff Mr. 100? No, Peter Schiff has no money. That's why he sells gold for a living, so he can buy emerging market stocks, which has been a really bad trade over the last decade too, by the way. Let me see. A Bottle of Red, thank you for coming. You're in the Bottle of Red, I always thought you were in the US, you're in the UK. General A. Abdel, do you think ETH will go up dramatically, considering that Sol might just eat its lunch, recycling the capital ETH into Sol? What are your thoughts? So, a rising tide will float all boats. ETH will go up. In fact, I made a post last week, again on Patreon. I said selling ETH at this level, I think it was $2,200, would be a mistake. And I don't even know the price right now. I don't even follow it that much. But hang on a second. Where's ETH? ETH is 2,700 now. So it went up $500. It looked like a perfect bottom hitting off as the 200-day, or I can't remember what average it was. The chart, the TA stuff I was looking at was just a perfect bottom not to sell. So everything will go up. The question is, what goes up faster? And the other thing I would like to mention here as well, in investing, there's always a shiny new toy in the room. Don't chase it. Create a thesis, get into winners, and then stick with them. But try not to be distracted by the shiny new toy in the room. And that's what some investors make mistakes in. They're always trying to... It's good to be on the faster horse, but not swap horses every few weeks or few months. Unless you're a tax-free jurisdiction and you're really good at it, then you can get away with it. Roy McDonald, I thought that Mr. 100 was the Brunei Wealth Fund. I've heard Qatar. I've heard a couple of other places. You know, there's parts of the Middle East that have a lot of oil money, and they're looking to heavily diversify away from it too. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. A Ball of Red in the UK, I could tell. Let me see. From DigiBitcoin, I have a couple $240 Tesla options expiring in January 2025. Should I roll them? 240. Yeah. That's we're running close. So when you have so little time left, unless there's a lot of volatility, and there has been quite a bit of volatility lately, it depends on your cost basis. If, for example, your 240s cost you 60 back in the day, your break even is 300. Can we get to 300 by January 2025? Depends how 1010 goes. The cliff of time value of options goes down like this, especially over the last 65 days, 70 days. You don't want to be holding that. And we're getting close to that window right now. I would roll them while you still have time. Try to get a little bit deeper in the money. Add a little bit of juice to it, and try buy out till January 2026. Not financial advice. That's what I would do. I sell short-term options. I do not hold them or buy them. There's Angie Torres. I'm from California. I usually see James live in the morning. Nice to see you. An evening update. Thank you. Get some rest. See you tomorrow morning. Yeah. I might as well just stay here and wait for DCA to start. How about that? Much love to you too, American Beijinger. Any 1010 predictions? Anders McInshaw. 1010 is October 10th. That's the Cybercab Tesla Robotaxi demo event. I think it'll be special. I think Elon has a few tricks up his sleeve. I do believe it'll be some type of newfangled vehicle that will not have a steering wheel or pedals, and it will drive autonomously and pick up passengers. I'm hoping that's the demo. What this thing looks like, it'll look pretty space age. I think it'll look something like the Cybertruck. If it's anything less than that, it could be a disappointment, and it could be a sell the news event as well. And remember, 80% of the time, these things do end up being sell the news events. So watch for that. Amy, my back. My back is the least of my problems. I had a stomach bug. I had some pathogen from some piece of fruit or something here in Asia, and it wiped me out. But I discovered a new weight loss plan too, which is great. Let me see. General Abdel again, are you more bullish on Sol since Breakpoint? If so, why? What changed? First of all, 70 massive product announcements, launches, multiple clients, validators, Firedancer, stuff that I did not expect to be brought forward so soon. Incredible. Limit orders in Jupiter, perp limit orders. Amazing. So I'm super excited. Eisenberger, 1986. Do you see any risks from MicroStrategy in the future? I ask because I can imagine that BlackRock wants to reach the biggest bag of Bitcoin and doesn't want any of the big players. How do you think about it? Well, BlackRock's already bigger than MicroStrategy. They eclipsed them about 3 months ago, I think. Second of all, the risk from MicroStrategy, and by the way, my biggest position is MicroStrategy. I got into trades in the bear market that made one of them made about 19,000%. So I have very inflated size position, still holding, still believe, but I do not want them to take on too much debt. Debt can be a killer, and too much exposure to debt is a little bit dangerous. Now, if they were buying debt and they were paying 6.5% interest on it, I'd lose my shit. I'd be very, very worried because servicing that is crazy. But they can actually service all their debt because it's at a blended rate of about 0.84%. They can service all of that at what they make in their business. So I'm not concerned. But if it gets to a point where the debt servicing cost is too high, I will get very financially conservative and walk away. Scott Robinson, it's a bulletproof golf cart from what I hear. Yeah, that's a good joke. MicroStrategy has been important. Oh yeah, Gizmo, IBIT options. These are great questions. IBIT options are huge. James Van Straten, who is a legend on Twitter, he made a post that he believed, IBIT options would be bad for Bitcoin because everybody will just use paper Bitcoin, yada, yada. But if you are an investor like me, I do not touch an asset unless it's optionable. Okay, I don't feel comfortable with it. And I think it was Semler or Metaplanet when they announced a Bitcoin strategy. I made a trade alert on Patreon. I said I can't buy this because there's no options, but I would if I could. And one of them went up 500% since April. But I don't invest in assets that aren't optionable. So, but the point and answer to your question is, IBIT options. As I always said, I actually expected them to get SEC approval for options, for BlackRock to get approval in April. I was wrong. They didn't get it till September because whatever Larry Fink wants from the SEC, he gets. Again, he's the biggest money runner in the world. Second of all, this will drive a ton of Bitcoin adoption. As people like me now I can play with IBIT. I can buy IBIT and protect my asset using options. I think it's a huge tailwind. Other people like James Van Straten don't agree with me, but if you run big money, you need options. It'll be good. And Don, you make me happy too. Thank you for coming. I'll do one last question that I gotta go. Larry Fink, Sol ETF. Gary Gensler needs to go. If we get a regime change in the SEC, we will immediately get a Sol ETF. It's that simple. But don't pin your hopes to a Sol ETF. We saw what happened with the ETH ETF. It's been, a $600 million bleed out. It will not save your bacon, as they say, ladies and gentlemen. And hey, it's Beardy and Mopbots, and wow, I don't even know what time you guys. All the regulars are here. Oh my God, Benny's up, and he's in Holland. I can't even tell anymore what time it is. Exactly, Sol doesn't need an ETF. I want to thank everybody for coming. Love you all. Good to see everybody here. And I'll see you all back in, hopefully, if you can make it. It's going to be the usual 7:30 a.m. Pacific, maybe 7 a.m. Pacific. There might be a slight time. We've got people in Portugal too. Yeah, thanks all. Have a good night. Thank you as well to American Beijinger. It's good to be back on camera, even though I probably look awful. Good night, everybody. Bye.